And blessed, so blessed to be with you. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. It's been a while since we've had this young firebrand on with us. Curtis Houck joining us from Newsbusters, Media Research Center, newsbusters.org. But I still am a fan of your work. I read it all the time, and I go, boy, this guy can write some good stuff. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kevin. Great to be with you and the people of Boise.
Well, good to have you with us. So let's just start with an easy one. Your thoughts on last night's freak show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it totally was a freak show. Now, we saw a few things that were kind of interesting. CNN really first they screwed the pooch with Don Lemon being a co-moderator. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with that guy, having him on. And he in the first kind of section that he moderated was on gun control. And it really, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash at least tried to make the appearance of objectivity and try to steer the debate here a little bit. Whereas Don Lemon, it was basically like, well, what do you think? Okay, what do you think? Then they talked about racism and how, and as we wrote about yesterday at Newsbusters, this president Don Lemon has a clear record of talking about how this president is racist. So maybe not the guy to be talking about that. But alas, there were some mistakes that they made that, as we pointed out, from the left, Democrats weren't happy, or certain abortion groups weren't happy, like Planned Parenthood, because abortion wasn't covered last night, believe it or not, if you think about it. And on gun control, there were a number of crazy proposals, but none of the moderators pushed back on that, such as, allusions to change the Constitution. And arguably, which I think is one of the bigger gaffes of CNN last night, they failed to press Bernie Sanders on his failure to pay his staff $15 an hour, his unionized staff $15 an hour. There was an exchange kind of talking about Bernie's extreme proposals and on economics, and there was nothing about that, which I think is really important. But, at the end of the night, a lot of the pundits said Elizabeth Warren won the night, and I would tend to agree with that, because when it came to going after one of the hard left candidates, everyone seemed comfortable going after crazy Uncle Bernie instead of Elizabeth Warren, and she just kind of was able to skate on by.
I would agree with you. I thought Delaney seemed about the most competent, Curtis, number one. He seemed like he belonged more with the Republicans than the Democrats, if you will.
Right, and in the middle of the night, Charlie, let's see, a little bit past 1 a.m. Eastern time, Charlie Pierce of Esquire magazine was on MSNBC, and he made that point as well, that he sounded like a Gerald Ford Republican with some of his points. And then in the spin room afterwards, he referred to these guys as socialists.
He did. Yeah, he did.
It would have been interesting if he actually would have brought that up on stage. If he dropped the word socialist, roll that grenade onto the stage and see what would have happened. But he didn't do that. So maybe that's why John Delaney is where he is. But again, he wasn't talking in sense. Every time someone was trying to attack the free market and basically our current system of government, he was there to stand up and talk about it. And specifically on healthcare, he was pointing out that, his father had a, electrician and he had great healthcare. And, he basically says, we're accusing Republicans of wanting to throw people off their healthcare if we get rid of Obamacare. Well, guess what? We would be doing just that same thing, saying that healthcare plan that you like, you can't keep it. Whereas everyone else is being Barack Obama 2.0 by, saying, you'll get great health care. It's just kind of, it's a trust us sort of thing. Cue the Ronald Reagan quote or the soundbite, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Again, John Delaney and to a lesser extent, John Hickenlooper and a little bit of Tim Ryan, standing up for kind of common sense, if I want to say that, if I want to give them that much credit for pointing out that.
I don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah, healthcare. Yeah, I don't know about saying that a lot of people like their healthcare, and saying that the government, we're not only are we going to take it away, we can give you something even better. Just trust us. They talked about how that John Delaney actually said to Chris Matthews after we're in the spin room, when has government done something big and done it well? Which I was like, whoa, you really are in the wrong party, bud.
Curtis Houck joining us, Newsbusters, newsbusters.org on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM with Kevin Miller in the morning, looking at a couple of things. Curtis, you're into this. This is your job. This is your profession. But, most Americans checked out and hanging out, enjoying the summer, or, CNN hopes that that will help them with the ratings. They've been tanking. MSNBC's been tanking. But, I mean, how many people besides the wonks really know the difference between a Bullock and a Delaney?
Well, that's a great point. When you just have that many people don't really. It's really hard to get that. The first debate that kicked off, had a little over 15 million viewers, and I believe the Mueller hearings were right around there, a little bit less than that. So, yeah, I mean, there definitely is a little fatigue at this point. I think not just because of how many candidates there are, just because, the news media have already been propping up their, Democrats, their friends for a long time now because they're so set up and ready to get Donald Trump out of office, through any means necessary. So, yeah, I mean, there's just so many layers of fatigue. There's Russia fatigue. There's Mueller fatigue. There's already, I think, 2020 fatigue. If you turn on any of the cable shows, I mean, you and I do this and talk about this and think about this for a living. But even for some of us, it's just exhausting. That's why we take vacations, so we can let go of these sorts of things. And especially within the last few years, because the Trump news cycles just how rabid the news media has become,
right,
being so negative and referring to this president as a Nazi and Pol Pot and everything else. And obviously a racist is the new thing or new old thing. I mean, it's just so much going on, during the Obama years, of course, when journalists didn't really believe in the need to do their jobs. The news cycles were just, there was some level of tranquility. It was very easy to just blow through all these shows because they weren't really doing anything.
Well, let's get back to just what we can expect throughout the campaign. It's funny, you have moderator envy, where you have the panelists on MSNBC slam the CNN moderators for running a WWE-style slugfest. I don't really know. I mean, Fox News did this 4 years ago where Megyn Kelly would ask someone, and, well, what do you think of Bernie Sanders? Bernie, they just, they instigate things. I don't know how else you can run this debate, but let's take a look at the coverage and the Sunday programs that seem to be continually obsessing over this story regarding President Trump and the city of Baltimore. Of course, he was just talking about the congressional district of Elijah Cummings. Chris, I'm going to play this clip and then get your thoughts on the media coverage here. Here is the president giving Representative Cummings some advice.
I'm not angry at anybody. The corruption and the graft in Baltimore is probably the greatest in our country, or one of them. Wait, now, he's in charge of an oversight committee. All I'm saying is take your oversight committee and go to Baltimore. You'll learn a lot.
Now, you have Bernie Sanders saying some things. I mean, you guys have been all over this at the Media Research Center, newsbusters.org. Democrat can say something. Now, the president, whether you agree with it or not, whether he should have said it a certain way, racist. Your thoughts, your coverage of the coverage on this case.
Yeah, exactly. CNN kind of had a robotic sort of set of talking points the other day where it was politics of hate. The president is spreading politics of hate and talking about how racism is going to be his strategy of choice for 2020. I mean, really, give me a break. It is so ridiculous at this point. They are what they are. The statistics are what they are. We were, were journalists not alive during the riots with Freddie Gray, seeing what happens in Baltimore? Like, really? Like, you got to wonder. But yet, you're going to hail Elijah Cummings as a very spiritual man, despite having some serious corruption, children out of wedlock, a wife with some ethics issues, donors signing off on loans, being able to drive without either insurance or registration, rather scandal-ridden. And obviously the fact that his district is gerrymandered. It looks like a ship with a dinosaur as a mast. So, yeah, you have journalists like April Ryan and David Zerwick, Baltimore natives, blowing gaskets, talking about how we're on the road to evil, Kevin. We're on the road to evil, and that the media should stand up to Trump because, not like they're not doing that, or
Well, and
I guess they haven't been doing it.
And Howie Kurtz actually had a great piece in the Fox Media show where he said, "Is this appropriate for this anchor to be crying or coughing on the air?" You look. I lived in Baltimore. Okay, guy. When's the last time you were in Baltimore? Well, now come on. We can cover these stories. You're telling me a man in his 30s or 40s is going to be hurt because the president says something to a congressman who's been through a lot and has dished it out and taken it, but you're hurt and the children are hurt. Never mind, and I know it was on your site yesterday where you had the reporter in the background. She's getting photobombed by a rat. This is a legitimate problem. PBS had this on. Now, again, you can talk about the president's language and everything else, but he's right on this.
He's raising the same arguments, and that Bernie Sanders and these documentaries were pointing out. And the facts are the facts, Kevin. But according to Baltimore's own statistics, they are the third most dangerous major city in America, behind St. Louis and Detroit. That's a fact. They speak for themselves. And as you know, as someone, you've been in Baltimore,
yep.
There are certain areas like around like Camden Yards and even the Inner Harbor or Fort McHenry, which are all great places and everyone should visit. But outside of that, I can't really guarantee your safety around some of these places. That's just because that is how it is. The per capita murder rate is astronomical. But yet, again, pointing out these problems means you're a racist. And, according to Joy Reid, you can't call people, African Americans as racist. You can't say that they're racist. And yet they're ripping Mark Meadows for a pathetic response to this. Well, again, if you ask Mark Meadows, the problem is, he probably didn't think what the president said was racist. So if he doesn't think it's racist and he doesn't think it was ridiculous, there's nothing to apologize for. But again, this is the way the news media works, Kevin, as you know. They're going to beat people into submission and trying to get them to change that. But for the first time, and on the right, we have a president and we have a political figure and movement in Donald Trump who is not going to take that and say, thank you, sir. Might I please have some more?
Curtis Houck, newsbusters.org. Yeah. What are you working on next? Anything that you can disclose?
Well, we had our big piece up on Don Lemon that a lot of us poured some effort into, yeah. But other than that, we're going to be back at it tonight with more coverage. So as I was saying to Ray, I was up. I only went to sleep 4 hours ago, so I'm running on adrenaline.
Hang in there, brother. Well, you're a young man. You can do that.
Oh, yes. Just some coffee and some Monster, and we had Chick-fil-A last night at the MRC. So, yeah. What more could a man want?
You're living the dream, Curtis.
Yep, absolutely.
You have a great one, brother. See you.
All right, take care, Kevin.
Our great friend Curtis Houck joining us. Coming up next, it looks like Mayor Beater has been caught. We'll tell you what he's been caught doing next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
I'm not angry at anybody. The corruption and the graft in Baltimore is probably the greatest in our country, or one of them. Wait. Now, he's in charge of an oversight committee. All I'm saying is take your oversight committee and go to Baltimore. You'll learn a lot.
There you have it, the President of the United States. Good morning. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. This in from the statesman Haley Harding. In April, a political action committee handed out flyers encouraging Boise voters not to sign a petition on the proposed new main library because outside organizations are trying to influence local government decisions. Now, one of the best things that happened locally when you recently, when you had the group of citizens organize their petition to vote on the multi-million-dollar new library, when you had people organize a petition drive to vote on whether or not they want a stadium, and I believe the Boise City Council, when they're not bending over to welcome Joe Biden, is still debating how they're going to put this on the ballot. Look, you want to spend a lot of money on personal items like a stadium, like a library, then that should be up to the voters, especially to the people of Boise that continue to tell me, Kevin, it's anti-business here. Kevin, it's we're taxed again and again and again, whether it's a new bike trail, whether it's a new library, and you have the mayor spending $80 grand, $90 grand to teach people to be kind. I don't know if any other mayor in the city in the United States could get away with paying that type of money for the Be Kind project. It shows you just how competent we are, just how compassionate we are, and just how uncomfortable people like the mayor's supporters are with this very program. You know, it's amazing to me that the world we live in today, the world that we live in right now, that everything is at stake. And I was talking to a rather successful business person, worked at the highest levels. And I'm always privileged because of the forum that we have here that I get to talk to these folks. And I always share this with you. And he's saying to me, you know, Kevin Miller, you talk about the show, you're in danger of losing the show. And I truly believe that each and every day. And I'll tell you why. Because of the paradigm shift that has happened in our culture. When people like Sean Hannity, Kevin Miller can be labeled as extremists, and people say, I don't want to be involved in politics. I don't want to be involved in anything political. You know, you do good work, but I don't want that type of stigma. And I'd say, what type of stigma is that? We have people that, and I talk about Mike Miniger all the time, that have been targeted because they believe in the same values that we do. Big advertisers, small advertisers. And it's amazing to me, in the world we live in today, that people that espouse what has been American values for years, myself and Sean and others, can be targeted to be put out of business, while you have major corporations like Albertsons, like Wells Fargo, and others openly sponsoring the Pride Parade and getting accolades for that. It shows you how much our culture has changed. And look, Albertsons does great work. I love the 10 Mile Albertsons. I always tell them I'm visiting from Star. They're a great community partner. Wonderful group. Wells Fargo, wonderful group. And they've chosen to back the Pride people. And that was disclosed. And we may agree with the Pride people. We may disagree with them. But that is their choice. But more often than not, you have people that go, well, that Kevin Miller, he's an extremist. That Kevin Miller, he's into politics. As if that's a bad thing. So I always, again, am grateful for the opportunity, to work with Ray Amaya each and every day. I don't take anything for granted. That's what happened to me. That's what brought me here from Pittsburgh. It was a liberal cabal that, made that happen. It could happen here, especially when I read the story about the mayor of Boise, where you have Protect Our Libraries, as the PAC was called, didn't want the petition on the library to succeed, calling its vote proposal bad governance. The PAC was formed after specific donors wanted to educate voters on why they thought the library petition was a bad idea. Remember, this was so that people could get the right to vote on whether or not they want to be taxed more for a brand new library. By the way, the library is a nice building. It could be refurbished, or the city could do something about the massive amount of homeless men that hog up the computers and sleep in the aisles each and every day. Now, again, God bless the homeless. God bless the people that work for them, but it is an issue that the mayor and the city continue to ignore. So if you're a person that has a family and you want to go to the Boise Library, you can go there today at 9 or 10, and you'll see the crew there. And if you want to use a computer, good luck with that. But that's not addressed because building a brand new library, taxing people more money, well, that's what we want to do. Now, the PAC was formed after specific donors had an issue with it. Now, guess who one of the donors was? The campaign of Boise Mayor Dave Beater, which gave a grand to the Protect Our Libraries Foundation. Beater was a founding member of the PAC. Robert West, the PAC's campaign manager and now manager of Beater's reelection campaign, confirmed Beater's donation. So there you have it, 15 grand to oppose the group, a grassroots group, petitioning to allow people in Boise the right to vote. Is that representative government? Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, traffic and weather together. Good morning, Dave. And I'm Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up next, why would the mayor's fund contribute a grand to stop you from voting? Doesn't that seem counterintuitive? We'll explain next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug. Rolling on the right side out to Jeff Manasso, Fox News Radio. Jeff, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin.
All is right in the world. NFL training camps opening this week. Great to be back and getting ready for the Hall of Fame game. And, of course, football. Your thoughts?
I'm just super excited about it. Aaron Rodgers, I don't think, is going to be able to, starting the preseason, allowing some bench sitters to warm up. I don't know if I should be scared or not, but look, I guess you got to save the main man for the main fight, and I'm happy that that football is back. I'll be up at Lambeau Field here in mid-August to kiss the wall.
Well, you're making us smile even thinking about that. Here in the crazy days of summer. Speaking of crazy, you've got the FBI arresting 2 people in Tucson for trying to join ISIS.
Yeah, these are 2 extremist Muslim men who are now behind bars and facing federal terror charges after being arrested before departing Tucson July 26th to Cairo, Egypt, to join the terror group ISIS. There's a 16-page criminal complaint against 21-year-old Ahmad Mohammed and 20-year-old Abdi Hussein, who accuses them of providing material support to terrorist organizations. Prosecutors say they repeatedly discussed with each other and to an undercover FBI agent their desire and plans for joining ISIS overseas. Investigators say that one of them said he wanted to travel around the world and make, quote, explosion, unquote, and that he wanted to blow up the White House and behead and kill as many people as possible. Nice guys. Court documents also show that they allegedly planned to conduct an attack in Tucson had they not been able to travel out of Arizona. So a very serious case. An undercover FBI agent began communicating with one of them back in August of 2018, so for about a year. And then right before these guys were set to take off to the Middle East, they were nabbed.
Yeah, you have to wonder just how many more of these misguided individuals are on the loose and if the FBI has enough people to deal with them.
Well, the FBI says the case is just one example that these crimes can and do happen everywhere, including in this country. The feds say that Mohammed and Hussein came to the U.S. as Somali refugees. One of them, Mohammed, had obtained a permanent resident status by the time of his arrest, but Hussein remains a refugee. Both accused terrorists are scheduled for a detention hearing in federal court.
Jeff Manasso, finally, what do you think the big story will be this year in the NFL?
I'm hoping it has nothing to do with the national anthem or kneeling or the flag. I'm just hoping It's about football. In that way, we can all kind of get back to doing what we love when we watch football, is just kind of just watching football. And I'm hoping that politics stays out of it. I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but that's, I hope that answers your question too. I just hope that it's just about football.
Appreciate you and looking forward to your reaction to kissing the wall in August.
You too, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff. Hank in Boise with good old K-Millie, KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Hank.
Good morning. I'll make a comment about one of the candidates out of that debate. I kind of like to call it the Dan or Duke show, but it's about the 40 acres and the mule. The that came from General William Tecumseh Sherman's Special Field Order number 16, dealing with the abandoned lands between Charleston, South Carolina, and Jacksonville, Florida. And basically, he proposed in this order to settle the black ex-slave people that basically congregated around his army on those acreages and give them 40 acres and a mule. And Thaddeus Stevens in Congress, who was the radical congressman from Pennsylvania, took up the call in Congress for the land. That's the origins of the 40 acres and the mule. And I might point out, the other thing I was going to point out before I go off the air, I can't see what Senator Warren was saying that being against the environment was racism. In other words, he was liking dirty. So if I like dirty hair, does that make me a racist? You know, I never thought of environmentalism being a racist issue.
Right.
I mean, I can't. I sometimes wonder if the Democrats is sort of vacuous, to say the least.
You know, I think they're the kids in the back of the room trying to get the attention, and I don't think that they really get it. You know, back to, and people just tuning in, Marianne Williamson said she wants to pay $500 billion to descendants of slaves. Coming up, she actually has white people praying and apologizing for being white, and we'll share that with you. I mean, these are not mainstream things. The scary part about all of these people that probably were rejected from the bar scene in Star Wars is that they make Obama seem very conservative in retrospect, do they not?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's scary how far the Democrats... I hate to think what the Democratic Party is going to be like 10 years from now.
Right.
Going at the rate that they're going.
Right. So, and you know, here you have this Marianne Williamson talking about, you know, some dark psychic force. Quickly, though, I do want to get your thoughts because you're our expert on all things in the city of Boise. Mayor Beater getting caught with his campaign fund giving $1,000 to opposing the library. I love this where they said we should trust government to spend our money, not the citizens. Crazy.
Well, it's typical. I don't like, for instance, the business of using Boise State to screen businesses, whether or not they're politics, whether they're conservative or not, like through the small business Development Center, which has offices at Boise State, where there's been coordination, particularly when Custer was president and probably afterwards, where they basically, between Beater and Boise State, they determine which businesses are going to be given money or funds to start up in Boise. And one of the criteria is whether or not they're willing to abide by the
here's another
policy.
one. You know, Boise State is just looking one day to close university so they can have this enclosed campus. Hank, I got to run, but thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Appreciate you, Hank. A story we first brought you a couple minutes ago, and let me follow up on this. A new from the Washington Times here on KIDO Talk Radio. New Age author and Democratic presidential candidate Marianne Williamson explained the math behind her proposal to pay $200 billion to $500 billion in reparations to black Americans. She said the present-day value of the 40 acres and a mule promised to former slaves after the Civil War was trillions of dollars. Quote, if you did the math today, it would be trillions of dollars. And I believe that anything less than $100 billion is an insult. And I believe the $200 billion to $500 billion is politically feasible today because so many Americans realize there is an injustice that continues to form a toxicity, she said during a recent Democratic presidential debate. Now, again, you have everybody else saying, well, we need to study reparations. Folks, this is a divisive issue. This is a divider, not a uniter. And if anybody had an honest bone in their body, they would say to Miss Williamson and others, ma'am, that's a ridiculous idea. People died so others could be free. People died so people could vote. People have been openly discriminated against because we need to take care of minority folks. It's just crazy. It's a divisive issue. And all you're going to do is when we continue to percolate this, we continue to fuel this, is divide us. And this Marianne Williamson, I from what I understand, she's a very successful Christian author when she's not out there in the netherworld. But this is 2019. Reparations? Are you serious? And by the way, we waited till, well, maybe we could wait a little longer on this. No, let's do it now. We have Marianne Williamson leading a prayer for white people, apologizing for being white. And it is building up.
Speak, I'm going to ask the white Americans in the room to please repeat after me. On behalf of myself and on behalf of my country, to you and all African Americans, from the beginning of our nation's history, in honor of your ancestors and on behalf of your children, please hear this from my heart. I apologize. Please forgive us. With this prayer, I acknowledge the depth of the evils that have been perpetrated against black people in America.
Okay, that's just a minute of it where you have Marianne Williamson leading a prayer, telling all the white people to stand up because they're evil, and apologizing for their race. Is that uniting our country? Is that uniting the United States of America? Sadly, no. But Miss Williamson is given a large platform, a credible platform, along with all the other Democratic nominees. Could you imagine if the situation were reversed? Where you would have somebody saying, oh, whatever race, you have to apologize to the white people. Look, as I've said to many people, this wonderful land that we live in, called the Treasure Valley, is one of the more challenging places to do talk radio. To do it, to make a change. You can go to Los Angeles or Seattle or Portland or anywhere east of the Great River and talk about race. Racism here does not exist. This is how America should be here in Idaho. And when you have somebody who's a major presidential candidate saying these things and talking about reparations, how is that going to make America together? I'd like to hear from you, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to Blair in Boise with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Blair.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Hey, aside from the fact that this is just patently absurd, the entire purpose of an apology is to admit that you personally did something wrong and that you are going to change. The events that they're talking about are 150 years old. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, that anyone in today's world had a part in or can apologize for. The notion that somehow that you can take on the sins of your ancestors is patently absurd. But the Democrats really, really like this idea because then they can create guilt and they can guilt people into thinking that they are somehow responsible for anything the Democrats want to pin on them. This is absurd. The principle that we should be adhering to is personal responsibility, not responsibility for others. You're responsible for what you do and responsible only for what you do. You cannot be held responsible for the sins of your forefathers. You cannot be held responsible for the sins of Adam. You cannot be held responsible for the sins of your children. Well, maybe, but I mean, this whole thing is just so beyond the pale. It's preposterous.
Well, what does that say about this Williamson lady who proposes to be this great Christian writer?
Well, I would say that she does not understand what she professes. If she professes to be Christian, then she is ignoring the fact that Christ died for everyone's sins. If she's claiming Christianity, she is denying that it was Christ who atoned for all of those sins that she's saying that we must now take upon ourselves that were other people's sins. Quite simply, she's a nutcase.
I think we'll settle on that one, Blair. Thank you.
Have a great day, Kevin.
You as well. Thanks for waking up on the right side. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
From slavery to lynchings to white supremacist laws to the denial of voting rights to all the ways, both large and small, all of them evil, all of them wrong, for all the oppression and all of the injustices. I apologize.
There you have it, Marianne Williamson leading a prayer, having white people stand up, apologizing for being white. Can't we all just get along? And whatever happened to the content of your character? Kevin Miller in the morning, getting your reaction, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Max in Garden City. Good morning, Brother Max.
Morning, bro. What up?
What up, G?
Have you ever thought that people like Williamson could be sleeper agents? Think about this. What better way to worm your way into the hearts and minds of the more gullible than to say, hey, I'm a great Christian writer. I love the Lord Jesus Christ, and I think socialism is the way to go. These people, a great number of them, could easily be sleeper agents because Russia and China, decades and decades ago, when I was young, were bragging about how they'd take us over from within. And on the other side, I do believe in reparations. I think we need to give reparations to every directly affected victim of slavery. So that they have to have been slaves under the law of slavery. Oh, wait a minute. They're all dead. Well, there goes my idea. And that's the way I see it.
Well, Max, thank you for the call. Let's go to traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. Liberal Steve joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberal Steve.
Good morning, America, and Kevin Miller and the Kevin Miller listeners and talkers. Kevin, how long have I been with you in your show?
You were there just about 3 months in, I'd say, maybe.
Almost day one. I was there before Pat Security.
You, Pat from Middleton and Russell from CUNA.
Yeah.
10 years next month.
Russell's still around.
Yep.
Yeah, so when a lib takes over your show, are they going to do a prayer of reparation or whatever about our 10 years together?
Probably they'll burn the whatever they burn, get rid of all the conservative spirits in the studio.
I did not watch the debate, but I listened to the sound bites that you played and some of the sound bites that I heard on other TV stations throughout the night when I couldn't sleep because of the heat.
Me too.
Anyway, I think she would be a good spiritual leader for the next president, whether they were a conservative president or an independent or a Democratic president. I think she would. I think she'd be a good Billy Graham because, she kind of speaks from the heart, and I feel bad. I know where I grew up, there was a lot of massacres that took place on Native Americans that I visited the sites and stuff where. So
you would agree with the apology? You would join Marianne Williamson apologizing for being white?
Oh yeah, I have no problem apologizing for being white. Or
would you like to apologize now for being white?
Yes, I'd like to apologize, not for being white, because I was born Caucasian. There's nothing I could do about that, but there's somebody told me that there's something in the Bible about we suffer the sins of our fathers, and I apologize for anything we did, and I apologize for being a contributor and listening to the Kevin Miller Show, but I'm not going to stop, Lord. The devil made me do it.
Would you like to apologize for me?
Yes, I'd like to apologize for Kevin Miller for being a human being and not knowing any better. He's never tried LSD, and he's never expanded his mind on pot, or he's never got drunk on Jack Daniels. So how can he even be a real human being?
Would you like to apologize for Tea Party Bob?
No, because Tea Party Bob is he's a good guy, but anybody that would move to New Meadows, I can't apologize for. There's just no excuse for that.
Well, thank you for the call and your numerous apologies, sir.
Well, you have a great day and a great day to all of your audience. And remember, Linda, I'm watching you.
Good morning, everybody.